Hello, everyone, and welcome, each and every one of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another session of the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. And as we kick off the symposium, the Filaments of the Atlantic Heritage. We are happy to have you all join us. We are waiting for a couple of other panelists, but we are certainly honored to have such distinguished guests with us as we kick off 1 week of the symposium, and I will switch to Portuguese in a little bit. This is going to be a bilingual section. As we kick off 1 week of the symposium, the Filaments of the Atlantic Heritage. So the event, just to contextualize it a little bit, we began this many years ago. So some of the students who are joining us today, and thanks to all the students from Fresno State who are joining us, many of you, or actually probably all of you, weren't born when we began this, which was in 1990. It was a proposal put to the government of the Azores by, at that time, led by Dr. Mota Amaral, and it was a proposal to put forth 10 years of a symposium that would bring to the diaspora, to the communities, writers, musicians, painters. It would open up the community to a little bit more of what at that time was not very traditional in the Portuguese American communities in the Azorean Diaspora in the United States. The project was for 10 years. It lasted 12. We got, of course, it continued to get support from the government of the Azores, and it also got support from government officials in mainland Portugal, such as FLAD was a supporter for 10 of those 12 years. Instituto Camões was also a sponsor for quite a few of those years as well. And so were other entities, such as the Secretary of State for Portuguese Communities. So fast forward a few more years, it ended in 2002. We thought, why not? Let's bring it back at a different level. And since we are all in a pandemic, let us do it, of course, virtually and bring it back in a very different format. But hopefully next year, next spring, we will have it live at Fresno State. So we're thankful that Fresno State, of course, through the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute and through the Portuguese Studies program, was able to be a part of this, to actually be the impetus behind what we're doing, because without Fresno State, we wouldn't have this event or a PBBI. So we're happy to have all of you on board. Thanks to all the students who are joining us. Thanks to all of you who are joining us on social media. And thanks to all of you who will be joining us later. You'll hear this later through the Portuguese American Hour on Multicultural 1600 AM, a daily show that PBBI puts together. To welcome each and every one of you, especially our dignitaries, we have two participants from the beautiful islands of the Azores, and one from the not just as beautiful city of San Francisco. Not quite the Azores, but it has a little bit of the weather of the Azores at times. But to welcome each and every one of you, and before I introduce our dean, a little bit of in Portuguese. Portanto, muito bem-vindos a todos. Muito boa tarde, já quase boa noite nos Açores. Ainda é cedo, porque a hora mudou aqui e nos Açores, em Portugal continental, ainda não mudou, portanto estamos com cerca de 18 e pouco no arquipélago. Muito obrigado, portanto, aos nossos convidados por terem aceito este desafio de estarem connosco. Estamos orgulhosos de renascer, digamos assim, através agora destas ondas de comunicação novas, o simpósio Filaments da Herança Atlântica, que teve uma longa vida, uma vida de 12 anos, numa pequena cidade onde ninguém acreditava que poderíamos ter um colóquio ligado, portanto, às artes, às letras, à música, etc. Tivemos exposições, praticamente todos os simpósios, figuras do nosso campo literário, etc. Mas graças ao governo do arquipélago dos Açores, na altura, presidido pelo Dr. Mota Amaral, ele sempre acreditou no projeto desde o primeiro ano, e, portanto, apoiou-nos durante os 10 anos consecutivos. assim como o Instituto Camões, a Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento, e também tivemos apoio da Secretaria de Estado das Comunidades Portuguesas e muito apoio da comunidade. Todos os anos tínhamos entre 20 a 30 artistas em Tolar, uma pequena cidade que toda a gente dizia, mas como é que se pode ter um simpósio literário? Porque aqui são apenas vacas e portanto, e campos agrícolas, mas as pessoas, obviamente, independentemente da sua profissão, podem e têm cultura, obviamente. E foi isso que aconteceu. E, aliás, havia uma história muito engraçada que era dita repetidas vezes pelo professor doutor Francisco Cota Fagundes, conterrâneo de açoriano e terceirense, professor emérito agora na Universidade de Massachusetts, e ele dizia, isto é muito bom aqui porque se fosse em São Francisco ou se fosse em Los Angeles nós tínhamos outras coisas para ir e talvez andássemos a fugir ao simpósio. Aqui não há mais nada, nós estamos aqui de manhã à noite e portanto tinha esse mérito. So to welcome each and every one of you and the most awesome dean in the whole, she's interim, but I just like to call her dean, interim dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, where one of the colleges where PBBI is part of. It is, of course, where we have lots of different projects with. We're also part of the College of Social Science and the Jordan College of Agricultural Science and Technology, but we welcome Dean Honora Chapman. Thank you so much again, Dean, for taking time from your busy schedule. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome, Dinesh. Thank you for your leadership of PBBI and all your hard work on this endeavor. Welcome everyone to Fresno State virtually. We're so pleased to be hosting this week-long event, the Filaments of Atlantic Heritage Symposium on the Azores and the Azorean Diaspora in California. There will be 2 sessions daily, one in Portuguese and one in English, to commemorate the collective memory of Californians of Azorean ancestry, to reflect on the links that keep this vibrant community connected to the Azores, and to strategize for the future. We are truly pleased that PBBI is putting forth such an ambitious event, bringing together Azorean community leaders and building strong bonds between generations too. It's especially gratifying to see the enthusiasm from the Azores on this project, as it will offer our highly diverse Fresno State students an opportunity to learn about the Azores, the ancestral home to so many in this valley, fostering dialogue between cultures, ethnicities, and people in various geographies. The presence of the Azoreans in California dates to the mid-1800s, as you know, and Californians of Azorean ancestry are involved in many facets of our modern world, from the arts to agriculture, from local and national public service to education. We commence this symposium, and we wish to thank very much the Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco, Maria Lopes Cardoso, for her presence at this opening session. Thank you so much. Thanks also to the Honorable Vice President of the Government of the Azores, Dr. Arthur Lima, for his presence too. Thank you, Arthur. We are so honored that you both have accepted PBBI's invitation to preside at this opening session. We also wish to thank Rui Faria from the Azorean Immigrant Organization for his work, and we really look forward to listening to your presentation too. We are grateful to the 48 presenters, panelists, and guests that will be part of this week-long event, hailing from the Azores, the East Coast, and various parts of California. It's wonderful to see generations and regions coming together to speak on a wide variety of topics, including the commemoration of World Poetry Day on March 21st, this Sunday, as well as a book presentation showcasing a novel that has the Azorean experience in the Valley as its backdrop. Welcome, everyone, and please enjoy the symposium.
Thank you so much, Dean Chapman, for your interim Dean Chapman for the College of Arts and Humanities, for your kind words, for your enthusiastic words. And as all of you can see, the Consul General already knows Dr. Chapman, but our guests from the Azores don't. With a dean like this, you just have to produce every single day because she's always very enthusiastic and just makes work a lot not work. It makes it as a challenge. And so thank you so much, Nora. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Denise, you've done an amazing job.
Thank you very much. And we would like to introduce our Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco. As Dr. Chapman said, she has been a friend to PBBI, has attended many of our events in person, of course, now virtually. She has been here in San Francisco for almost 4 years. I think it'll be 4 years in September, if memory serves me correctly. She's done an outstanding job in a very difficult time. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days she's ambassador somewhere, and probably the United States. I would think that would be the next logical step. That would be the San Francisco to Washington, D.C. would be a good step in the next few years. But meanwhile, we hope she's here at least another year or two. We know that she cannot be with us for a long time, but hopefully another year or two. It is my pleasure to have the Honorable Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco, a doutora Maria João Lopes Cardoso. Muito obrigado pela sua presença mais uma vez.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Cônsul Honorário Antular, Dr. Professor Dinis Borges, pelas suas palavras. Sr. Vice-Presidente do Governo dos Açores, Dr. Artur Lima, Dear Dean, Nora Chapman, ilustre palestrante. Eu vou dizer algumas palavras em português porque falo sempre em inglês e não é bonito. E, portanto, só queria recordar que Portugal, como sabem, tem sido um aliado dos Estados Unidos desde os primeiros dias da independência deste país até, e os dois países são parceiros comerciais e de investimento, e aliás os Estados Unidos, como sabem, é o maior parceiro de Portugal a seguir à União Europeia. Ao mesmo tempo tem lugar vários intercâmbios culturais, estudantis, entre pessoas. Neste momento há muitos americanos a quererem ir viver para Portugal, ainda hoje saiu um artigo na Visão exatamente sobre isto. A Califórnia e Portugal têm imensas afinidades e nós que vivemos aqui temos o prazer de sentir isso. Mas para além das excelentes relações bilaterais entre Portugal e os Estados Unidos, o que interessa a mim, que sou cônsul-geral, é a minha comunidade, a comunidade portuguesa. Portanto, já foi aqui explicada pela Dean da Faculdade de Humanidades da Universidade de Fresno, quem é a comunidade portuguesa, que estão aqui há tantos anos, praticamente há 7 gerações. Pensa-se que hoje em dia possam ser quase 1 milhão. Estamos à espera do novo recenseamento, dos resultados do novo recenseamento de 2020, para ver quantas pessoas serão. Hoje em dia, os portugueses, no fundo, estão completamente integrados na sociedade americana, têm o mesmo tipo de trabalhos, de profissões. O rendimento médio das famílias é até um bocadinho acima do rendimento das famílias americanas, e estão presentes, e também não foi aqui falado, também têm uma atividade política, portanto, a nível não só do estado da Califórnia, como também do próprio país. Temos 3 congressistas em Washington que são do Vale Central. So now, after having said these few words in English, where I just added to what Madame Dean said regarding the Portuguese community, I also added that the Portuguese are also present in the American society at a political level. So we have members of the Assembly, senators in Sacramento, we have congressmen in Washington, and most of them come from the Central Valley, that beautiful Tulare, Fresno, and the cities of the Central Valley. And going back to what Dinesh said about the symposium, it's wonderful, it's true. And something that touched me indeed was this, well, on the one hand, my husband and I, we visited the Fresno University and we loved it. We loved it and we would have liked to study there. So, we were really, really impressed. And on the other hand, this small town or middle town America, where you can have cultural events. like the one you mentioned, for a whole week, a symposium with over 30 artists and writers going to Lare. That's wonderful. And I hope that next year you will move back to the physical again. And after this virtual event, you will have a successful event also of a week there. If you need our help in finding people, you know, we're always happy to be some kind of bridge, and not only to the Azores, also to Portugal Continental, although I'm a big fan of Azores. So I really hope that this week will be very creative for everybody concerned, and I look forward to more of these initiatives. And Dinesh, thank you so much for all you're doing. You know, I'm a big fan of the PBBI. And we are very grateful to the University in Fresno for having hosted this institute. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco. Thank you for your work, and thank you for your support. And we can make you president of the PBBI fan club, but as a diplomat, you shouldn't be president of any Portuguese fan club of any Portuguese American organization, obviously. But thank you for your kind words. And now I'm going to turn to Portuguese, and real quick, because I want to introduce our presiding guest from the archipelago of the Azores. Portanto, é com muito gosto que damos as boas-vindas ao Sr. Vice-Presidente do Governo da Região Autónoma dos Açores. Uma breve nota biográfica: é licenciado em Medicina Dentária pela Universidade do Porto, pós-graduado em Direito de Medicina pela Universidade de Coimbra. Foi coordenador do Serviço de Saúde Oral do Centro de Saúde de Angra do Heroísmo, foi representante da Ordem dos Médicos Dentistas na região autónoma dos Açores e membro do Conselho Diretivo da Ordem dos Médicos Dentistas de 2004 a 2020. Foi presidente do grupo parlamentar do CDS-PP Açores de 2008 a 2020. Foi vereador na Câmara Municipal da Praia da Vitória de 2000 a 2001 e deputado na Assembleia Municipal da Praia da Vitória de 2005 a 2009. Foi vereador na Câmara Municipal de Angra do Heroísmo de 2009 a 2013 e deputado na Assembleia Municipal de Angra do Heroísmo de 2013 a 2016. A nível partidário, é presidente do CDS-PP Açores desde março de 2007. Foi vice-presidente da Comissão Política Nacional e da Comissão Executiva Nacional do CDS-PP de 2009 a 2016. É, desde 2020, vice-presidente da Comissão Política Nacional e da Comissão Executiva Nacional do CDS-PP. E entre, portanto, estas notas, esta breve nota biográfica, eu peço desculpa, é brevíssima porque tínhamos muito mais para falar, mas queremos ouvi-lo. Portanto, talvez o mais importante é que ele nasceu em Santa Cruz, na Praia da Vitória. Temos, portanto, isto em comum. Somos mais ou menos da mesma geração. Eu tenho uns anos de avanço ao doutor Artur Lima, mas temos, portanto, o mesmo berço natal, ou seja, agora cidade, na altura vila, da Praia da Vitória. É casado e é pai de 2 filhas. Portanto, Sr. Vice-Presidente, doutor Artur Lima, bem-vindo, muito obrigado por ter aceito o nosso convite.
Muito obrigado, Dinesh. É um gosto muito grande estar aqui a presidir esta sessão, mas talvez a parte mais importante do meu currículo, o professor Dinesh esqueceu-se de dizer, é que eu sou membro do Conselho da Diáspora açoriana, fui eleito pelo Parlamento e dos Açores, que aliás vamos eleger os novos membros agora, em breve, faço esse entrei, vamos eleger agora, já no dia 22 de março, os novos membros, porque eu deixei de fazer parte, agora sou vice-presidente do governo, e portanto é necessário eleger, e portanto cumprimento com um caloroso abraço aqui, e também do nosso presidente João Manuel Bolieiro, que me manda um caloroso abraço. And I would like to say special compliments from the Azores Islands to Dean Chapman, and what an enthusiastic Dean, very friend of Azores. Thank you for all your work, for all your enthusiasm, of being an Azorean, because to be an Azorean, you don't need to born in the Azorean Islands. You need to feel the Azores, and you feel it so well and very well. Thank you. Senhora Cônsul, também uma palavra, muito obrigado, e dizer-lhe também, agradecer a sua presença, e dizer-lhe também que o Conselho da Diáspora Açoriana está a fazer o recenseamento de todos os imigrantes, e vamos continuar esse trabalho, está agora na vice-presidência, e vamos continuar esse trabalho, que é, aliás, muito importante para saber quantos somos, onde estamos e como estamos. E vamos dar início, já iniciamos, mas vamos intensificar essa relação com as comunidades, que é, aliás, o sinal político que este nosso governo quis dar, foi exatamente subir as comunidades à vice-presidência para estreitarmos cada vez mais estes laços que nos unem ao fim e ao cabo. Queria também cumprimentar o senhor diretor da Associação de Imigrantes, o Dr. Rui Faria, e, claro, o Dinis Borges, o nosso fundador e diretor do Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, da Universidade Estadual da Califórnia. Queria saudar todos os açorianos imigrados na Califórnia e nas outras partes do mundo que nos estejam a ver. E nesta minha intervenção reitero o meu agradecimento ao honroso convite que o Sr. Professor Dinis Borges me endereçou para presidir esta sessão inaugural desta semana fantástica que vai ser de trabalho de simpósio de Filamentos da Herança Atlântica. Este ciclo de conferências é mais um contributo muito útil deste Instituto Universitário em prol do conhecimento sobre as comunidades açorianas estabelecidas nos Estados Unidos, nomeadamente na Califórnia e na costa oeste deste país. É com este tipo de eventos que se estreitam relações entre as comunidades imigradas e os residentes no arquipélago. Só tenho a agradecer o incansável trabalho que têm realizado pelas gentes açorianas. Muito obrigado. Como sabem, o fenómeno da imigração marca, de forma indelével e permanente, a história dos Açores. A nossa origem, enquanto terra habitada com comunidades constituídas, resulta de um empreendimento de migrantes provenientes de diversas partes de Portugal, continental e de outras partes e regiões europeias. Os Açores fizeram-se à custa de uma mobilidade dirigida ao Atlântico, é este Atlântico que nos une, no longínquo século XV. Nos séculos posteriores, a imigração foi uma presença constante no dia-a-dia dos açorianos, quer por razões económicas, quer pelas adversidades que a natureza tendia a impor. O horizonte, sobretudo a ocidente, tornou-se um lugar seguro e de esperança para os açorianos e para as suas famílias. Foram muitos os açorianos que, a partir dos anos 60 do século XX, encontraram na América do Norte, sobretudo nos Estados Unidos e no Canadá, o espaço predileto para a construção de um projeto de vida mais desafogado, assente num sonho de uma vida melhor. Estes açorianos que não viraram a cara à luta e com o suor do seu labor conseguiram uma vida melhor do que aquela que tinham na sua terra de origem. Orgulharam e orgulham os Açores. Demonstraram a resiliência de que são feitos, a sua firmeza e a sua determinação. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, os nossos imigrantes nos Estados Unidos e no Canadá, na Bermuda ou no Brasil, embora não vivam nos Açores físicos, continuam a habitar o espaço mental e sentimental da região autónoma dos Açores. Não importa a distância que nos separa. Ser açoriano é, acima de tudo, sentir-se como tal, independentemente do lugar onde se vive ou onde se nasceu. Mesmo longe, sei que os nossos imigrantes estão perto. Mesmo longe, sei que não deixam de sentir que estão presentes. Mesmo longe, continuam a ser parte de um todo que vos recebe de braços abertos quando tem a oportunidade de regressar. Este sentir diferente, que nasce da nossa identidade intrinsecamente única e distinta, que os açorianos e imigrantes evidenciam, permite que se crie, como disse o professor Onésimo Teotónio de Almeida, e cito, uma população açoriana que ultrapassa os limites geográficos dos Açores e que se difunda e jamais se perca a açorianidade que todos queremos proteger e promover. Senhora Cônsul, meu caro Dinis Borges, Dear Dean Chapman, o 13º Governo dos Açores estabelece no seu programa de governo que é prioritário valorizar a diáspora açoriana, reforçando os laços sociais, culturais e económicos. Não esquecemos os nossos imigrantes, nem olvidamos a sua relevância na definição das políticas públicas em matéria de imigração. Por isso, queremos reforçar a cooperação económica com a nossa diáspora, salvaguardando os nossos interesses mútuos. Devemos estar atentos nos empresários imigrantes, ajudando-os no que for preciso, para que as suas ideias e o seu dinamismo possam ver na região uma janela de oportunidades para os seus investimentos futuros. Queremos promover a identidade açoriana e divulgar os Açores nas nossas comunidades, valorizando as nossas embaixadas pelo mundo, que são as casas dos Açores, que são parceiros nesta missão. Queremos construir uma íntima ligação entre os Açores descendentes e a terra dos seus pais e avós, despertando o interesse dos jovens pelas suas raízes. Queremos potenciar as novas plataformas de informação e os órgãos de comunicação social como meios de proximidade entre a região e a diáspora, sobretudo nesta fase pandémica. Senhoras e senhores, num evento cuja temática em discussão é a nossa diáspora e os Açores, muito haveria a dizer. Antes de terminar, queria reiterar aquela que para mim é a verdadeira definição de açorianidade. Todos somos parte integrante da comunidade Açores, independentemente da nossa origem e do lugar onde vivemos. O sentir açoriano não conhece barreiras nem limitações físicas. Sei bem que o sentimento de pertença aos Açores é a melhor garantia de que a nossa terra teve passado, tem presente e terá futuro, contando com aqueles que vivem no arquipélago e com aqueles que vivem noutras latitudes. Espero que quando a pandemia permitir, nos possamos reunir de novo, num verdadeiro reencontro de saudades, onde nos iremos abraçar com a força da ligação que nos une enquanto um povo. Para que este momento chegue mais cedo do que tarde, é provável que os açorianos residentes nas nossas 9 ilhas precisem em breve mais uma vez da ajuda das nossas comunidades. A ajuda das nossas comunidades. Como sabem, em 6 ilhas dos Açores não tem hospital. O nosso sistema de saúde não está preparado para resistir a uma pandemia com a dimensão da que está em curso. E os desenvolvimentos recentes intensificam nos Açores a temível variante inglesa do novo SARS-CoV-2. Estamos a desenvolver esforços junto à União Europeia para conseguir imunizar a população dos Açores contra o SARS-CoV-2. Na hipótese de não sermos totalmente bem-sucedidos, precisaremos de ajuda para sensibilizar o poder norte-americano no sentido de nos fornecer vacinas. Os Açores nunca falharam aos Estados Unidos da América e os Estados Unidos da América nunca falharam aos açorianos quando deles precisamos. Somos amigos, somos dois povos amigos. Estamos certos que se precisarmos, os Estados Unidos, as nossas comunidades, os nossos políticos, os nossos empresários, não nos vão falhar para com estes amigos com que contam há séculos aqui no meio do Atlântico. E nós, meu caro Dinis, contamos com os nossos imigrantes para que, de novo, nos ajudem. Muito obrigado a todos, um saudoso e caloroso abraço em nome do Governo dos Açores, em meu nome, desejar-vos as maiores felicidades e to the Dean Chapman, thank you once again for your enthusiastic defense of the Azores, the Azoreans, and I hope you to visit our islands very soon when we have SARS-CoV-2 far away from us. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, Dr. Artur Lima, muito obrigado, Sr. Vice-Presidente do Governo da Região Autónoma dos Açores. Palavras, portanto, encorajadoras sobre a nossa comunidade. É sempre bom as comunidades sentirem-se queridas nos Açores e têm sido sempre, e eu penso que há de facto que movimentar-nos nesta nova tarefa de fazer as vacinas chegarem a todas as ilhas dos Açores, até porque temos também alguma parte que seja um bocadinho egoísta nisso, ou seja, nós queremos visitar os Açores e para que isso aconteça queremos toda a gente vacinada. Nós vacinados para irmos lá e as pessoas nos Açores também todas vacinadas. Portanto, há também aqui um tanto ou quanto egoísmo da nossa parte.
Era win-win situation, Dinis. Win-win situation. Thank you.
É sim. Indeed, and as I'll say a few words in English just real quick, as the Vice President was saying, it is the Azores need vaccines like all of us, and they've reached out, of course, to the European Union, where the Azores are part of, but also to this privileged partner, which is the United States. Has always been a privileged partner of the Azores, and the Azores is a privileged partner of the United States. And so, of course, the communities will step up and do all they can with our contacts in the political world. I hope I think that there's a few of our congressmen there. They have some staff people on listening. So here's the message, and we'll be in touch. I'll be in touch personally with all three of them, because we do need, of course, to as Natalia Correia, one of our famous writers from the Azores, used to say, and of course the Azores is totally different today than they were, but she wrote a preface to a book called Banda Nova e Outras Histórias, which was written by an immigrant from the island of Pico, Manuel Ferreira Duarte, who lived in California, lived in Venezuela, lived in Brazil. He was a citizen of the world. And he said this, and he wrote the book, it's just a book of short stories, and in it, he had a preface by Natalia Correia, and he used to kid. He would say the preface is worth more than the entire stories. But it's not everybody in the diaspora that had a book published with a preface from Natalia Correia. But she would say, she said something, this wonderful line that said, the Azorians can never forget. And she used the term Califonas, which was what we used to use in a dear term. It wasn't derogatory about those who lived, whether they lived in California or the East Coast or anywhere. And she wrote in that preface this: Azorians can never forget their ties to America. Azorians can never forget that in the year of famine, whenever that happens, decrees will come from Europe, but the flower will come from America. And so it's been the story of the Azores for many, many years. And of course, today is different because of the European Union and everything else, but we can never forget these strong bonds. And that's what we're trying to put together, as the Dean Chapman said, and the Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco as well. That's what we're trying to do with this symposium, which I'll talk about in a little bit later on. But now it is our turn to hear from Rui Faria, who is the president of the Azores Immigrants Association. É com muito gosto que temos o Dr. Rui Faria conosco, presidente da Associação de Imigrantes dos Açores, todo o seu trabalho, várias parcerias que temos em conjunto, e temos muito gosto em tê-lo conosco, que fará uma apresentação sobre a nossa imigração. E acho que ele tem uma parte visual e neste momento já está como moderador. Portanto, mais uma vez, meu caro Rui, muito obrigado por teres aceito este convite. Trato por tu, porque tu és um jovem, em comparação com os outros todos que estão aqui à volta. Portanto, parabéns pelo teu trabalho, muito obrigado por tudo que tens feito e bem-vindo ao Filamentos Herança Atlântica, que a Associação de Imigrantes é uma parceira.
Bem, olá a todos, começando pelo nosso vice-presidente, que é cumprimento, nunca nos conhecemos ao vivo, mas em Rabo de Peixe nós costumamos, que eu sou natural de Rabo de Peixe, a maior vila dos Açores, nós costumamos dar um bom ano até nós nos virmos. Como eu ainda não vi nenhum de vós, desejo um bom ano, apesar de já estarmos já a finalizar o primeiro trimestre. À entusiasta DIN e à nossa Consul-Geral, também um olá. Diniz, uma das coisas que eu acho que faz falta nesse mundo virtual é que nós antes queixávamos um bocadinho, porque nas palestras ao vivo, um bocadinho que se falava era logo palmas. Nós passamos dos muitas palmas para poucas. Isto só para dizer, o PBI, a tua excelente DIN e toda a tua equipa fazem de um país tão grande como é a Califórnia, dentro de outros países tão enorme como é a América, quase que parece que vocês estão todos perto uns dos outros, tal é a quantidade de coisas que consegues organizar em tantos milhares de quilómetros que vos separam. Por isso, a clap, a lot of hands para todas as iniciativas. So Denish asked me, I will speak in English, I think it's better, I think 99.9% of our viewers will understand better. So what I will try to do here is give a point of view, not about the Azorean immigration history or culture. I think there will be people in these days to come that would better do that. What we want as an association is to make questions and provoke good discussions around the immigration. And I'm glad the Vice President is here. He has this subject in his in the Vice President of the Azores. So I'll try to talk about the association and what we think about today and most tomorrow about our Azorean community. So I will change between my face, which you have already known now, and the PowerPoint I did, and feel free to stop me. I think Denish told me about 15 to 20 minutes. I'll try to keep that. I know in Azores, 15 minutes, it's the delay time. In you, 15 minutes, that's overtime too much. So I'll try to share my.
Muito bem, estamos a ver, sim, senhor.
Okay. So this picture is one of our famous works. We for 5 years we try with the help of the City Hall of Ribeira Grande, São Miguel Island, to have this accomplishment, which is a very beautiful square in front of our archipelago, which is a unique contemporary center of arts in Ribeira Grande. So Dean, I know if you visit Portugal, and all the Azoreans would say that their island is the best to visit. Well, be sure that each one of them is right. So the hard choice is to choose one of the 9 islands. But if you come to São Miguel, where he is a stop for at least a selfie spot in our square, we call it the Immigrant Square. It shouldn't be Immigrant Square, but a logistic bet form to send to the European community to support this. It should be Saudades da Terra Square, which in English it would be very hard to translate, but it has to be, at least for 5 years, the Immigrant Square. It is okay, but as you know, immigrant is a word that's more and more are not, it should be used less. Anyway, I will start my presentation. So the Azores, the Azores, our association, has been here for about 10 years. Many of our work is to help direct our immigrants and people from the Azorean, from the Azores that want to go. We've been working with the government to help the best way that people want to come from abroad to here, and here to Canada and America mainly, to a safe immigration. So from the beginning, we have to think. We think a lot of this. As a professor the other day told us, probably the biggest Azorean cities are not in the Azores. If we think Toronto, if we think If we think several in California, as a California state, if we think Fall River, there are more Azoreans there than Ponta Delgada, Rangra. So if we think from this beginning, I think the knowledge or the whatever we think of goals to our Azorean communities, it's different than thinking Azores as 9 islands, 30-something mayors and parish, and thinking more like a big geographical position that we have across the Atlantic and hitting in a good sense Canada, Brazil, and US mainly. So I'll try to, okay. So rapidly, this is, we have 2 main goals, is to promote this bridge. And this bridge is still an easy way to do it because our immigrants that went on the last waves of the 60s and 70s are alive. So it's what we used to call the Mercado Ciudad. So the big point and the big goal is to how we will promote the bridge with their sons and their grandsons that were born in US or Canada or other countries. That's the hardest part, because those who feel Saudade, it's not hard to ask them help for a vaccine, good point, or other help. But with the sons and grandsons, when their parents passed away, because that's what happens in life, we have to start this. We are already probably a little late on this contact. So this promotion of the bridge, we've been trying to hit always several events that promote the younger generations. So it's common we do a publication a year. This year will be about the relations of Azores and US. With the sports, mainly the golf, we've been practicing for 8 years our Azores Golf Cup. We have an average of 50 to 70 immigrants and their sons, and on some grandsons and their families and friends to come to play golf. So we have to think about this connection. It doesn't have to be necessarily by folklore or philharmonic or what traditional ways we present it to our diaspora. It's okay to keep doing that, but we must forget that the Azores are not the Azores that many of the parents tell to their sons or grandsons, because they left the Azores that it's not my Azores. I was born in 1980, so even to me, it's hard to listen to the Azores of the lights went off, the TV was starting at 4 p.m. and so on. So the Azores are the same as I could be in Tulare, San Francisco. There's not much difference, except the beauty, of course. So we have been doing some projects about saving the oral history, and that's very important. The Find the Azores is a project we've been maintaining, and we are now will promote in social media, which is we always try to sell the Azores. But we think the Azores are so rich in their diversity, in their 9 islands, even in the islands, as we many times hear Vitor Ruidoz with the spelling, help me, Denise, the stacks, the
pronunciations, the different pronunciations.
The pronunciation. So we are very rich in our plurality that we can sell the Azores as sell in a good way, that we have so many things to do. Just there is no one Azores. There's so many Azores. If you want nature, if you want cities, if you want sports, or if you want sea or land, if you want fish or want agriculture, if you want to invest, the tourism is high. So we have lots of Azores to sell. And of course, our immigrant square was the big note of our association. And on the other hand, we call it the GPS Azores, which is the biggest work we do. It's not seen because it's a direct contact with our immigrants and the Azorean people that have subjects or other things to deal with our communities. and we support them. And mainly our job is to call all the city halls and the environment secretary or the tourism secretary to see if we can always put their papers on the investment or on the social security about the grandmother who wants to have their social account in Canada and so on. So we give them this support. So this is a little bit of what we do, but let me tell you what we think about some subjects of our immigration. So how nowadays the Azorean immigration is seen by the eyes of the Azores. So the people that were born in the 50s up to the 70s, they have a realistic view, which is because they have regular contact with their relatives in Canada and America. They know about their successes, but sometimes their hearts. They know that they can earn a lot of money in their jobs, but they have to save because the rent is high and the social or security, the health issues are very expensive and so on. But the digital generation, those who were born after the 90s, don't have that much of understanding. And I can say that because for 3 years, I visited all schools in the 2 islands of Azores, San Miguel and Santa Maria, promoting the history and culture of Azorean immigration. And for them, because they didn't live and didn't receive the Barreiros da América, they didn't know. Well, that was the best time in the year, which was to receive all the new things from Canada and America. We would sit down, and for the first time I saw Adidas, the first time I saw a CD, the first time I saw many things were this great news that came from America or Canada. But this generation didn't assist that. So what they know about our immigration is very little, and some that they hear from the parents talking, or from when parents are talking by the phone with their aunt or their sisters and so on. And in schools, again, for us, the biggest history in the Azorean history is still our Azorean immigration. Because right from the 16th century, we start departing to Brazil, and we never stopped till the 80s or 70s, something like that. So in the Azorean history, there's a lack of knowledge and a lack of promoting this history of us in the schools. I must say, Denise, I didn't mark the hour I was starting, so you can buzz me when I need to stop. So in this, what we want is this digital generation of Azores, those who were born in the 90s, to have, because it's not only the sons and the grandsons in our diaspora that we need to push them to the Azores in so many ways, but also this generation which they will encounter in the future, this young generation with the young generation in US and Canada. So we can't think about, well, let's promote some initiatives for the sons and grandsons in the US or Canada, so when the parents are not here, they still want to come to the Azores. But we haven't done the same work with our generation here, with the same generation. So I think we need to put the Azores and the Azores outside the Azores at the same level of understanding this great history. And again, of course, this is an history that the kids and the young generation are not taught by the parents here. Well, they don't need to, because it's something that we don't receive anymore, the peanut butter or the shoes or the CDs, because we have it all here. And that's great. But sometimes in our history, like now, we may need again, like we needed in Kaplinj, or like we needed in Sessão, like we needed today. Because if you ask all our philharmonics or our clubs here in the Azores, all of them have the big support of the immigrants that or buy an instrument or help a lot their homeland, their roots in regarding the associations. Another thing that we can say is that, again, the Azores are 9 islands in a very big space of the Atlantic, and we are divided by groups, geographical groups. The central group and the western group are have a more presence in California, and of course the eastern group has a more presence in the eastern part of the US when we talk about the USA. And this also reflects on the knowledge we have and the kids have on our immigration. So what I saw in schools when I was promoting and giving the classes and exposition in the schools was the kids from San Miguel and Santa Maria have heard about California, but not because of our immigration. So even there is a lack of geographical understanding of the Azores are more than Fall River and the east side, and the factories are also on the Pacific side, and probably more in the Pacific side than the eastern side. So even in the regions, different groups of Azores, we can see that lack of understanding where we are. And I'm not talking about Brazil, which is part of history because we've ended the immigration there. That knowledge is way far than they have heard about Canada and the USA. So the great thing, one of the great things this new government of the Azores did was and I hope it accomplishes, at least our president says it will be an accomplishment this year, is to have I think tariff is the name, the niche tariff aérien. I can say tariff.
Yeah, it's the basically the airline ticket, one
Okay.
charge for all the islands, correct?
Okay, so what the government wants and will do, hopefully, and we want that so much, is that we have a unique price to visit all the islands. So that is great in many sense for the development of our economy, of our culture, of our social understanding, because most of the Azoreans probably know, well, the central group is different because they have 5 islands, but from the San Miguel, many people have not visited the Curva or Flores, for example. Flores and Curva, they visit a lot the other islands, mainly San Miguel, Terceira and Fayal, but because of the hospitals. So with this, the airline ticket is great. But well, can we go a little further and think about, again, the largest cities of the Azores probably are not in the Azores. And will that tariff be, can we think about it as a unique tariff for our diaspora? This is something we've been discussing forever. And the truth is, my aunt goes to Italy from Boston and she pays less than stopping in the middle of the way to get to the Azores. So this is something that probably I don't understand nothing about economy, and SATA is not well as any other airline company, but we should start to think about that. If there's an inter-islands airline ticket, why not think about a diaspora in a sense? Well, that would be great. I don't know how would it be possible, but I think the good things that would come from there would for sure be a lot better than all the costs that probably and will cost. So it's something that we can keep in the ears of our vice president. I know he's been thinking about that. SATA is always a subject here in the Azores, but it stays on the air. So one of the things we've been talking about, and we've been talking about this for some years, and now with José Andrade, the new regional communities director, is that we think that we have many associations, Casa do Sus, but so many others and clubs that are supported by the Azores. And the Azorean government has made a huge investment and support to support people, projects in the association as far as Okanagan Valley in Canada. But we think it should have a strategy, not a global strategy like you know, we have to keep the bridge, we have to make the kids and the younger generation even closer, but specific strategies. And these specific strategies should be accompanied by a special budget. What I mean is, like an association like the Azores or the PBBI or others, I think it should be better if we know that the Azorean government has this strategy, and the budget he has, like for an example, for publications that talk about this subject and be related to younger generations in California. This year, that's the main strategy for the publication, something like that. So we can prepare ourselves and all of us can think together, because now what happens is each one works what he thinks it's better. Well, if we know a lot of our diaspora, we will work in this sense. Dinesh would work as he knows so much and he is focusing on these projects. But could we have like guidelines, so special direct guidelines for all the associations and clubs that promote the diaspora and Azores abroad? So I think that would be a real good point. Of course, we are free to do whatever we think is the best, but I think we should have those guidelines, and those guidelines will be accompanied by a special budget. So I think will be a fair and healthy competition between us. And last but not least, one of the things we've been doing throughout the years, and sometimes it's very, how would I say this without being rude? It's very hard to have immigrants in the Azores. Many of them buy houses or buy lands thinking when they die, at least I have something here in the Azores, almost to oblige my son to come to the Azores and not forget his roots. And the hardest thing is how we maintain that enthusiasm when we have such it's not the bureaucracy they are more afraid, because there's bureaucracy everywhere, that's a myth, but the time of response. Here in Azores and Portugal, the main problem for our investment and the biggest problem that people have, and then they give up on many things, it's the time for a response. Because when they apply something, if something's not right, the paper comes back again. And when he again applies, it could wait up to 60 days. It doesn't matter if it's a line or a project or the bathroom is missituated. And you can imagine the agony of someone who doesn't need to invest in the Azores, because they could invest in other places in the world, they will be much richer. But that's not the point for many of them. It's because it's their lands, their homeland, and they want to leave something here, and they want to leave for their sons. So one of the things our association is doing, we are promoting some conversations that it should have a special treatment regarding the time of response, mainly from the city halls, because here in the Azores, most of the process start in the city halls, because the places they are promoting, and then there are some secretaries, government authorities like the environment, the tourism and the culture, that have a big say in the yes or no, okay, to promote those investments. And it's very hard for the association and for me that I do a lot of this job. We are volunteers, but we still do it anyway, which is to ask, please, almost beg, please, can you just forget all the norms and put the paper of this man up in your secretary and look at it. So when I talk in a discussion of people and Azorean people, and some really don't like that when I talk about you should have positive discrimination for people who want to invest here, people from our diaspora. And they say, well, they're not better than the Azoreans. If I'm Azoreans, I will wait the same time, and this guy that went in the 70s now comes and he will get ahead of me, and this project will. Yes, that's exactly what we are saying, because again, this is the bridge that's from the Azores to the Azores across the Atlantic in the US or Canada that we are talking about. This is something that is for us a primal thing. And yes, they should have like a green card to pass or to have a time of response faster, because they don't need to invest here. Investment for them here is sometimes losing money, but they don't care. They just want to leave something of them for their sons, many of the times, here in the Azores. So if we don't discomplicate at least the time of response in the city halls, and mainly in these 3 departments of the government of the Azores, we are losing so many investment, and that most of all, we are probably losing a little bit of this bridge that we don't want to stop anymore. So I don't know if I've been too boring or too, but that's something that we talk about in the association, and it's been that I want to share with you. So I will just put.
That was great. Thank you, Rui. It was fantastic. There's a lot. I took a lot of notes. I took about a page full of notes, so I can forward them all to Dr. Arthur Lima. All of the suggestions. There's some very hard ones, of course. It's not easy to have a single ticket, as in popular English, a single ticket, for the diaspora. But Rui makes a point that was made here not too far, just a couple of weeks ago, by Dr. Carlos Amaral, who is now also a member of the government of the Azores, and who gave us a talk, who I've known for many years, and gave a talk as a basically as the professor from the University of the Azores, and he was saying exactly what Rui started with, as he mentioned, which was, some of the biggest Azorean cities are actually on this side of the Atlantic, and including here, of course, here in California. If we take just the San Joaquin Valley with over a couple 100,000 Azorean Americans, I mean, we have just in the San Joaquin Valley about as much population as the whole archipelago of the Azores, and that's just with first, second, and third generations. Who knows, fourth and fifth generations, we have to do a better job here as well. There's lots to unpack there, Rui, as we say in English. Thank you for all the different topics that you touched. That's exactly what we're going to be discussing this entire week. So we are going to be discussing things that tie us to the Azores. For example, and I'll already do a little bit of a plug for our evening workshop today at 5 o'clock. I know it's an indecent time in the Azores. Not that indecent, because the Azores, everybody goes to bed late, but it's at 5 o'clock here in California time. So it's 11 o'clock in the Azores and midnight in mainland Portugal. And it will be called Beyond the Festa, Além da Festa, Constructing the Azorean Diaspora in the US. Construindo a diáspora açoriana nos Estados Unidos, além da festa, porque, and I'll switch just briefly to Portuguese, porque estamos ainda muito concentrados na festa e muitas vezes eu tenho dito isto, eu gosto de uma festa, quem é que não gosta de uma festa? Mas eu penso que concentramos-nos tanto na festa, gastamos tanto tempo a preparar a festa, e qual é o terceiro que não gosta de uma festa, não é? Isto é quase, portanto, obviamente um exagero da minha parte estar aqui a criticar a festa, mas, ou seja, muitas vezes nas comunidades, na nossa diáspora, gastamos tanto tempo na festa que depois não temos tempo para reflexão sobre as outras coisas que podíamos fazer entre a festa. So that's one of the reasons why we're going with these themes: beyond the festa, constructing the Azorean diaspora today, tomorrow beyond saudade, which is something that we touched. Yeah, Azorianists in second and third generation. The second and third generations do not have saudade. They don't have the same nostalgia that my generation, or those of us who immigrated, and even in my generation, those who immigrated like myself at the age of 10 or less, our lives have been more in the United States than they've been in the Azores. And so our saudade is totally different than our parents who immigrated at 35 or 40. Their saudade is much different. So we want to discuss this. We are going to talk about the rural development with the new director of rural development for the government of the Azores, Dr. Emiliana Silva, who's a good friend of ours and a good friend of PBBI, and who's been a good friend of our exchange programs between the University of the Azores and Fresno State. And how can the Azoreans in such an advanced area like when it comes to rural communities as the San Joaquin Valley, how can we also contribute to the rural development of the Azores? That's something of a dialogue that we want to have. And then we'll learn a little bit more about some other aspects as well. So thank you so much, Rui, for touching all those topics. That hopefully the idea to leave as we end this is that by next Wednesday, we will have an amalgam of notes that we can elaborate some conclusions and, of course, send them to our Consul General in Portugal in San Francisco, the diplomat representing Portugal, and, of course, sending them to Vice President Dr. Artur Lima, who is overseeing the diaspora in this government. And so to look at these conclusions as a contribution to a better way that we can bring all Azoreans together. I've always thought, and to end it, what Rui was saying about investment, I've always thought that there should be some kind of I'm not an economist either. I'm not an economy major. I would probably be much better off financially if I was. And so I'm like, we in the arts and humanities, we have a different take on the economy, and we get stuck on poetry and music and things like that. But I do believe that there is so many immigrants and firsts and even some second generation that would not mind investing in the Azores, but they don't have $5 million to invest in the Azores, but they may have 50 or 100,000. And if you have, 1,000 people at 50 or 100,000, that can be a pretty good investment for the Azores. So I think that's something that with those, and we do have young Portuguese Americans, including some who just finished Fresno State not too long ago, who were economic majors. And so maybe they can help us do this fusion that we need. Anyway, thank you all so much for attending. Thanks to all of you on social media as well. Thanks, Rui, for your presentation. And Dr. Artur Lima, a última palavra, obviamente, como presidente desta mesa, e é sua. Muito obrigado mais uma vez por ter estado connosco e por ter dedicado 1 hora e tal, portanto, a este evento. Eu sei que está extremamente ocupado, mas a última palavra seria sua, obviamente. Não o ouvimos. Está bem, já vi agora. Muito bem.
Thank you, Dinis. It is a pleasure to be here. 1 hour spent in a few minutes. And I would like to say to Rui that I take good notes of his what he thinks about the relation between the Azores government and the immigrants and the immigration. And in the program of the new government, we want to strengthen the economic between the Azores and our successful immigrants. They have money, they want to invest in their land, as motherland, and we will take this politics forward. And as the ticket, Tier 1 ticket, we also take the first step. Between the islands, the prices were different. From São Miguel to Terceira was 120 euros. From São Miguel and Horta to be 100 euros. From São Miguel to Flowers to be another price. So next May, we'll have a unique ticket for all the years, 60 years for all, 60 euros for all the islands. So the one price ticket from California to Flores will be the price from São Francisco to Terceira, from Auckland to Terceira, Auckland to São Jorge, the price is the same. It will be the same. We already have a step forward in this situation. And the strategy for the economic relation will be implemented, and we want to implement for the new generations. And I understand you when you say that bureaucracy is too much, and we have to treat different what is different. And so we have to have a little more of attention to abroad and to our immigrants, and we'll take that in consideration. So to our Dean, our Council, Rui, and especially Dinis, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here in the name of the government of Azores. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very successful week work. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll keep you abreast of the situation. We'll keep you informed as it goes by. I want to acknowledge some of the folks on there. Thank Director José Andrade, who I see is one of the in the audience. Thank also from FLAD, Miguel Vaz, who is a strong supporter of PBBI. As Dean Chapman knows, Miguel is not just a supporter, but a friend of PBBI, and I would say of the Portuguese communities, and who knows the Azores because he lived in the Azores and knows the Azores well. And along with him, also attending on behalf of FLAD, along with our good friend Miguel Vaz, is Leonor Barroso, who is also part of the FLAD team. So thanks to all the students, thanks to everyone on social media, and again, thanks to all of you here on the panel. Take care. Have a good evening in the Azores, good afternoon here in California, or wherever you're listening to us. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.